Rule 8 for Chapter 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Welcome back, and happy Tuesday, turkeys. How long have we known each other?
We've known each other for 2 decades.
I am not apologizing for who I am or what I like or the people that I love.
How do I be a wife? How do I be a mom? And how do I be myself and all of that? You didn't see that coming, did you?
Good morning, Charlie Brown.
Good morning, Snoopy. I don't know.
I forgot I put a little beep of cinnamon in my coffee cream this morning.
So did I. Cheers. Happy Tuesday.
Cheers. I still have to come see you to gather up my mug that I left at your house.
I'm so sorry about that. You'll get it back one day.
Don't be sorry. It's 1000% my fault. All right. Well, here we are, Chapter 8, Episode 101. We sort of forgot to acknowledge the fact that we were on Episode 100 before.
But here we are. We made it. That's crazy.
You know what was funny? That as I was writing the summary for us to upload the 100th episode, is that the 100th episode fell on the chapter that said to do what was meaningful, not what was expedient. And I was like, how ironic that we are reminded on episode 100 that even though we aren't a blasting success that is financially self-sustaining in this project yet, it was just a good little universal lineup.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so cute. I love it. And I love that it's been 100, not just 100 episodes, but 100 weeks straight. I have not missed a single week.
Oh, it's true. We haven't. We're so on the...
So fun. Well, congrats to us.
Congratulations. We have 101 Dalmatians of episodes right now. I should have worn something spotted.
A missed opportunity.
It's the year of the snake, though. So I have my snake earrings on.
Is it really?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Oh, wow. Do you know what I don't like? That next generation for kids that are going to be born this year are going to be in generation beta.
Beta?
Yeah.
I hope it produces the biggest batch of alphas.
Me too.
It probably will. It probably will. The generational swing will be due for another direction. Or we'll all be robots by then. Who knows? Well, summary time. Well, here. Oh, God. I am discombobulated. So, Rule 8 for Chapter 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
What a good chapter this was. I liked it.
These are all really hitting as good reminders for the new year. Okay, summary. To kick off the summary... So I'm so embarrassing the way that I write these things to myself. Okay, but for real though, to kick off the summary, I'm going to read a direct quote because as I was going through my quotes to remind myself to write the summary, I literally thought to myself, this is a one sentence banger for what we're encountering this chapter. Quote, taking the easy way out or telling... Wait, stop. God, Kaylee. Taking the easy way out or telling the truth. Those are not merely different choices. They are different pathways through life. They are completely different ways of existing. In this chapter, Dr. Peterson challenges us to examine history first with numerous examples of small lies, small concessions, and what seem like tiny moments of intentional ignorance that led to massive casualties, horrific suffering, and terrible consequences. He specifically points to the tragedies in world history during the World War II era. He noted that the Nazi Party did not begin with a giant proclamation of their most insidious intentions. They began with small lies, and the world around them gave tiny concessions until the tragedy was so large it's still hard to comprehend. And this is not the only example. Stalin, Mao, Mussolini, and a considerable number of other leaders doled out mass suffering and chaos in recent history. Dr. Peterson reminds us that the most simple safeguard to these situations is for each of us to tell the truth, act in truth, and avoid living out lies. When confronted with the alternative hell on earth we know humans are capable of, taking the hard road of telling the truth seems a little bit easier to swallow.
First of all, just every week, your summaries are just freaking on point.
Thank you. I really enjoy getting to use my vocabulary.
You're doing a great job, and I'm glad that this responsibility is on you.
It makes me want to do the Peterson Academy so that I can sort of dip a toe back to being in school, but I think I have too much going on right now to add another thing to my plate. But
One
it
day,
sounds
though,
fun.
that would be cool.
I know these little tingles of writing assignments are really entertaining for me.
I love it. Well, I'm glad it fits our personalities perfectly.
Me too. I'm not using AI to write these summaries, people.
Exactly. But it is funny because I literally just listened to this chapter yesterday because time. And it's always fun to hear your summary because, yes, I just listened to it but it's kind of cool to hear you summarize it in a way where it's like, yeah, she picked up exactly what I was putting down. And no, I'm kidding. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just like your summaries is all I'm trying to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what did you feel about this chapter?
We had a lot of history again.
We did in the beginning.
I don't think we had Adam and Eve, but we had a lot of history. It's important, and I know why he's doing it, but again, sometimes I just go, wow.
This chapter, I didn't have to say wow as much, but I definitely multitasked in the beginning because there was a lot of, because I'm listening to it again. But it does make sense, and it is interesting, and it is definitely interesting with world events that have happened in the recent past, and then also the very, very, very recent past, which had come to mind post his book coming out. So it was interesting to see kind of the patterns. But I love this chapter.
I do too. I like the information. I have been someone, I think I had some avoidance modeling shown to me as a kid growing up. So again, when he's talking about a lie, which he does a good job of setting the stage on, I'm sorry, only one armpit is sweating and it feels really weird. He does a really good job of kind of reminding you that a lie is also not living in the truth or doing something counter to what you know is true. And your body always signals you like, we shouldn't be doing this. So it's sort of when you act against that intuition telling you no.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I was sort of thinking about how that was not necessarily lying, but just sort of squirting around the truth, maybe not being outright blatantly speaking something not true, but being a little sneaky peeky was definitely a thing in my family growing up, and all of it was just conflict avoidance. But I know that I've picked that up, and it's something that I could easily default to as an adult now. I think I've gotten better over the years at being honest, or like, again, him saying it, just if you can't tell the truth, don't lie. Mm-hmm. And I have definitely tried to be more intentional recently, which this is a cool reminder, to just be quiet or just not say the thing that people want to hear that I know is a lie, that I know isn't true. It doesn't mean that when somebody says, does this make me look fat, that I, immediately am like, yeah, you look like a giant sack of shit. That's not nice. But I could perhaps make a truthful note of that color looks really good on you. Like there are things that I can do to continue to be truthful and to not lie, or to make a suggestion. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's interesting when you reflect.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up childhood and like things that you've witnessed. I also once you start thinking about it, it's like, it didn't seem like a big deal. And it was just all these little small things that you observe and witness and you're surrounded with that really are not harmful. But all this, I do like, he basically said something like, all the small lies that people have told in their lives can, first of all, snowball. But even if they're not even serious things, like, did you take the trash out? Yeah. Or trash out yet? Yeah. You didn't do it, but you're about to go do it. Even that, like, why even do that? But that was something that I saw a lot growing up. And it just feels, how do you say this? It doesn't harm somebody, or it may feel insignificant, but it isn't true and it isn't authentic. And I liked how he tied in authenticity into this. And especially like how I took it was like integrity and honor as well. I don't know if he used those words exactly, but that's what I was gathering from the chapter. Even if it's a question of like, does this make me look fat? Don't be a meanie butt. But if you like, don't just appease people. I think that's the culture that we're in right now. I think people appease people a lot, and we just feel like we have to say what people want to hear, and that starts to become inauthentic because we're not actually telling the truth.
And then there's no accountability in that structure either. And people need accountability. And kindness. You can do all of those things out of kindness. Did you take out the garbage can is the exact kind of example I was talking about.
Yes.
Where, like you said, it's not a big deal, but why am I being a little chicken shit?
It's so weird. And it's like this weird pattern that I mean, obviously we learned it from somewhere. It's like why even do that? So it's something that I've been trying to it's something that I've worked on as an adult. Like, it's just dumb. Like, just don't, even the little most insignificant things. I also know he's mentioned something about like silence. What did he say? If silence is a lie, if you feel strongly about telling the truth, or something to the effect of like, don't just stay silent if you have to say something, because that's also inauthentic.
Yeah. I think your example of the garbage can is a good one to highlight. Yeah, it doesn't hurt anybody, whatever you said you did and you're about to. But it does ultimately water down your words if they mean less if they're not real.
Exactly. And then you lose
Big deal.
trust. Uh-huh. Why is
Yes,
that a,
I am.
why? Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I'm so bad about that. You know what else I do it with is I round money down.
We've talked about this before.
Well, I mean, part of it is that I do it because I don't like numbers, but there are times that I do it where, like we're staying at a hotel and it's maybe not as nice as it looked in the photos. And then how much was this? So
I got you.
we like shave 50 off so it sounds better.
I got you.
Why? It's
Yeah.
not like I made the hotel.
Right. It wasn't your fault, but you just feel this. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's definitely some of those are definitely kind of a lingering perfectionist complex for me, I think. But
And
again,
maybe
it's
like
all
a people pleaser complex.
yeah. So it's all, or just avoidance of somebody saying, really? If it is me in turn, like if Jason were ever to say that, he wouldn't be blaming me. He would just be like, oh, this hotel is ripping us off. He's not saying, oh, you dummy, you got duped.
Yeah. But also, it's like we feel the responsibility. I don't like making decisions sometimes because if the decision turns out bad, like I don't want to pick the restaurant because if it's a shitty restaurant, then that's directly on me. Now, is it actually? No, because I can't control it. And neither of us know if the restaurant's good or not. But I feel a direct responsibility for the decision I make, which has trickled into many things. And it's like, I don't want to, like, if it's bad, yeah, you try to make it sound better. But like,
Yeah.
why? Because it really wasn't your actual fault.
No, it's not. I way over personalize stuff. And it's funny that you say that because now with hotels and Airbnbs, I don't know, I'm the planner. So a lot of times I plan stuff, but I will literally be like, look at this. No, you think
Yeah,
it's fine if you think it looks good. I'm like, no, you have to give your stamp of approval. So if it's shit, we're both responsible.
it's so true.
I should probably pay attention to that. Okay, well, cool. Let's find our first quote. Let me just tell you guys, I'm gonna give our tip of the week early so that because I'm thinking of it and I don't want to forget. If you're reading this, even if you're not, I really recommend doing some morning journaling.
Mm.
It's very helpful for processing some of this stuff down. I'll just be doodling along with whatever sort of knot in my stomach I wake up with, and the things we unravel is uncanny.
Wow.
Ugh, there's so many good quotes. Okay. Number one, a shorty boy. Pride falls in love with its own creations and tries to make them absolute.
Yep.
There's such a thing. I made this, so now we have to use it forever. This is also such a thing in so many workplaces.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that culture came from or that social dynamic? Like, why are we all like that? A lot of people.
I need someone smarter than me to talk to me about the evolutionary implications of it because
Right?
Dr. Peterson could probably tell us a lobster story about why this is the way it is.
Maybe a different day. Sorry.
A naively formulated goal transmutes with time into the sinister form of the life lie. One 40-something client told me his vision formulated by his younger self. I see myself retired, sitting on a tropical beach, drinking margaritas in the sunshine. That's not a plan. That's a travel poster. After 8 margaritas, you're fit only to await the hangover. After 3 weeks of margarita-filled days, if you have any sense, you're bored, stiff, and self-disgusted. In a year or less, you're pathetic. It's just not a sustainable approach to later life. This kind of oversimplification and falsification is particularly typical of ideologues. They adopt a single axiom: government is bad, immigration is bad, capitalism is bad, patriarchy is bad. Then they filter and screen their experiences and insist ever more narrowly that everything can be explained by that axiom. They believe narcissistically underneath all that bad theory that the world could be put right if only they held the controls.
There's too much in that sentence or sentences, and I love it all. First of all, in the beginning, I just have to say my 2 cents because now hearing it back again, I feel like we lie to ourselves so much internally. That is what creates easy, small, tiny lies on the outside. Like, no one wants to actually look at themselves and be like, yeah, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to be in 20 years. This is what my life wants to, like, I want my life to look like. Even if you did have a realistic idea of what that looks like, most people aren't willing to change the now, and I'm guilty of this. Most people aren't willing to change the now to get there. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we have all these bad habits. We talked about this weeks ago in all the other chapters, so this all makes sense. But it's like, you can't say that you're living your most authentic life or your most healthy life when you know you're not. But you lie to yourself what to make yourself feel better. I don't know. I just feel
I
like it's
know.
a lot of internal dialogue issues as well with
It
everyone.
definitely is. It definitely, I think, an inside out situation, which is what he kind of gets at. And I also really like that he talks about these two quotes. You might have an idea of what you want now that you think is a good future, but you've got to be willing to change the current moment, but you also have to be willing to shift your goals instead of just in whatever phase of life with the information that you have, you think one thing. You've got to be able to grow and expand instead of cramming every new experience into an old framework. You've got to be able to build out and change.
I mean, just look at how much culture has changed since we've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to be that inflexible old person that doesn't, that scolds my kids. Like, you could be doing this because that's how we did it. Like, maybe not. But I also like at the second part of that quote, he talks about just listening to, I took it as like, and some kind of authoritarian voice, and you just agree with everything, or you stick with your one axiom, or your one opinion, or your one thought process, or your one party. Like, it's interesting how that happens.
I have a friend that had boys, and she wasn't an extreme feminist, I hate men kind of a person. But even she had kind of mentioned, which I think is a good illustration of this, that it's sort of easy when you're a woman to blame a lot of issues on men. And there are real things in society that are unequal and unfair. What each gender and person has their own challenges. But she said it was interesting to be a mother of two boys and realize, well, I can't talk I can't think shitty of men. I have men. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
boys right now, but they're going to grow into men. And I don't want to project some kind of resentment about whatever my insecurities are onto my kids because that's not fair
Interesting.
to them either.
That's an
I was like,
interesting
that's such a
viewpoint.
good point. I know. And it's such a good, I just think that's a good example of that same concept. You kind of know what you know with the information you have. And then when you get new information, it's a real strength of character to be able to shift.
Mm-hmm.
He's also just so pungent.
I know. I hate it and I love it.
That's not a plan, that's a travel poster. God damn, that's rude, but correct.
So blunt.
It might be the noisy troublemakers who disappear first when the institution you serve falters and shrinks, but it's the invisible who will be sacrificed next. Someone hiding is not someone vital. Vitality requires original contribution. Hiding also does not save the conforming and conventional from disease, insanity, death, and taxes. And hiding from others also means suppressing and hiding the potentialities of the unrealized self, and that's the problem. That's what you were talking about with the silence part.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we can stop lying, but if we're still hiding in the corner like a little chicken shit, maybe we were the voice that had the idea that could make the ship go in a better direction. And if we're too scared to do it, then we're missing out and
Mm-hmm.
our surroundings are missing out.
Yep. When I was listening to that part, I immediately went to like a lot of like entrepreneurial books or self-help books. And it's like, if you keep doubting yourself and you're not authentic to your passions and you don't put it out in the world, you're actually doing a disservice. Because what if you have something inside of you that needs to get out and that will help people and that you've been put on this planet for, but you don't want to do it because you're scared or you think people will judge you or, all those things that are freaky and are a legit
You
fear
might
for people.
you might not be immediately good at it.
Well, yeah, you'll fail, you lose money, you lose friends. Like, there's a bunch of things that could go wrong. But like, I just think of a miserable person driving into a cubicle job 9 to 5, and they're obviously not living their authentic life because that's not what they want to do. Now, there are circumstances that for a period of time, that may just have to be what happens. But if it's something that you just succumb to and do forever, I feel like that's where you lose yourself and your like pure happiness, because you're not living in your way.
It's true. Here's a continuation of that, which I loved. If you will not reveal yourself to others, you cannot reveal yourself to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That does not only mean that you suppress who you are, although it also means that. It means that so much of what you do, what you could be, will never be forced by the necessity to come forward. This is the biological truth as well as the conceptual truth. When you explore boldly, when you voluntarily confront the unknown, you gather information and build your renewed self out of that information. That is the conceptual element. However, researchers have recently discovered that new genes in the central nervous system turn themselves on when an organism is placed or places itself in a new situation. These genes code for new proteins. These proteins are the building blocks for new structures in the brain. This means that a lot of you is still nascent in the most physical senses and will not be called forth by stasis. You have to say something, go somewhere, and do things to get turned on, and if not, you remain incomplete, and life is too hard for anyone to be incomplete. One more paragraph. If you say no to your boss or your spouse or your mother when it needs to be said, then you transform yourself into someone who can say no when it needs to be said. If you say yes when no needs to be said, however, you transform yourself into someone who can only say yes even when it is very clearly time to say no. If you ever wonder how perfectly ordinary, decent people could find themselves doing the terrible things the Gulag camp guards did, you now have your answer. By the time no seriously needed to be said, there was no one left capable of saying it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Gosh, the way he says things. Yeah, that part, not to go completely derailing this conversation nor getting us kicked off of YouTube. As far as the history stuff goes, and the people not saying no, or people just going along with it, or people maybe not questioning things, just slightly reminds me of, I don't know, a time between 2020 and 2022, let's say. It's just very interesting how much change happened because everyone was just like going with it. I'll stop there, but that part really was like, this happens, and it obviously happens in history over and over again. So it's like, be aware, be on the lookout.
And be skeptical of anybody who tries to stop someone from asking questions or saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if they're also incorrect, the discussion has to be available.
Exactly. Because, and also just in general, new thoughts should be able to be expressed and discussed and debated for the success and evolution of society in whole, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's not completely controversial, like discussions should be had. And you can be right or you could be wrong, or you can be right now and then you can be wrong later, or you can think you're right and then learn you're wrong and then be okay with that. It's just, again, I think it goes back to like ego and just, I don't know.
You just have to have space for discourse. I always go back to the courtroom as an example, but there's a reason that court systems are set up as adversarial systems so that two different sides have an argument. It's also why you can indict somebody with a grand jury where there's no defense present and it's just the prosecution presenting their side of the evidence. It's extremely easy when there's nobody there. So you can get an indictment on a grand jury, no problem, but the second that you have an actual jury trial and defense is present and they're able to give their counterpoints, it can completely change the game. So, exactly. Even if ultimately the person is still guilty, they're just that you have to have those things there so that everyone can chime in. Okay, let me burn through some of these real quick. I love this analogy, but forest fires burn out dead wood and return trapped elements to the soil. Sometimes, however, fires are suppressed artificially, and that does not stop the dead wood from accumulating.
That's a good one.
Some jam-packed good quoties in here. The sins of the inauthentic individual compound and corrupt the state.
Wait, say that again?
The sins of the inauthentic individual compound and corrupt the state.
Here you go.
He really does a good job of basically telling people if you want to see larger change, it has to start with you.
Michael Jackson said empowering. That. I'm in a vein in the mirror. Yeah.
All these thinkers, all centrally concerned with pathology, both individual and cultural, came to the same conclusion. Lies warp the structure of being. Untruth corrupts the soul and state alike, and one form of corruption feeds the other. Here's another great one. It is the greatest temptation of the rational faculty to glorify its own capacity and its own productions, and to claim that, in the face of its theories, nothing transcendent or outside its domain needs exist.
Yikes. Yikes.
And then, but he said basically what saves this is the willingness to learn from what you don't know. And to recognize that there are things that you don't know, which is going to segue into our next chapter really well. Okay, I'm sorry. There's just so many meaty quotes, and I want to get through them before we get too long. You should never sacrifice what you could be for what you are. Bro.
Love.
You should never give up the better that resides within for the security you already have, and certainly not when you already caught a glimpse, an undeniable glimpse of something beyond.
Okay. I'm hearing you, Jordan.
I know, this is really getting me revved up for the new year. Okay. The success of a good example can always be attributed to luck. Thus, you have to risk your particular individual life to find out. It is this risk that the ancients describe as the sacrifice of personal will to the will of God. It is not an act of submission, at least as submission as we currently understood. It is an act of courage. It is faith that the wind will blow your ship to a new and better port. It is the faith that being can be corrected by becoming. It is the spirit of exploration itself.
Again, I wish I could write like this.
Me too.
Or speak like this.
I know. Allow the world and your spirit to unfold as they will while you act out and articulate the truth. This is both pragmatic ambition and the most courageous of faiths.
Love.
So lovely. Okay, last paragraph. And then I'll cork it. Okay. Truth will not come in the guise of opinions shared by others, as the truth is neither a collection of slogans nor an ideology. It will instead be personal. Your truth is something only you can tell, based as it is on the unique circumstances of your life. Apprehend your personal truth. Communicate it carefully in an articulate manner to yourself and others. This will ensure your security and your life more abundantly now while you inhabit the structure of your current beliefs. This will ensure the benevolence of the future, diverging as it might from the certainties of the past.
I really like that. I really like this chapter. Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you pulled out really, really good quotes. I didn't have quotes, but I wrote down notes, and I just like how he was like, lies can turn into weak character, and if you have weak character, adversity will mow you down, which will then in turn make you hide. That was not a direct quote, obviously. And then I just really like how he said, speak carefully, words shape reality, which I'm super woo-woo about, because I do feel like what you say turns into what your thoughts are, which then become your reality. It's super crazy. If you speak poorly, things are going to maybe not be so great. And then you go into manifesting, and I think there's also action behind that. But anyway, and then I just like how he said, the truth is a path to meaning, roughly in those words. Those were my notes that I gathered. But yeah, such a good book. What's the next chapter?
It is. Okay. Oh, my stiff little leggies. Rule number 9 will be next week. And it says, this is a real doozy. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
Our faces.
He really does a good job. So many of these tie in together, but I really liked how the telling the truth part, he starts to lay the groundwork that you need to be able to take in new information, and then now we're going to get slapped in the face with newsflash, you don't know everything. Really, the worst people are the people that think they know everything. And I remind myself of this constantly when I get cocky to say, Kaylee, don't be that person.
Yeah.
And even when someone really annoying is talking, I'm like, okay, maybe they know something I don't know. Anyway, with that being said, I look forward to next week, and I love you. Bye.
I love you.
Bing.
Oops.
Beep.
See you next Tuesday. What's that face for?